All right, guys, we are on day 2 of writing equations of circles. And on day 1, we gave you the center of a circle and the radius, or we gave you the center and a point on the circle, or we gave you, the endpoints of a diameter, and you had to use things like the Pythagorean theorem, or the distance formula, or the midpoint formula. You had to use those things to find the center and the radius of a circle, and then basically just plug them into your equation, which was x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared, right? So we gave you that information. You basically had to plug things in. Now today, we are giving you an equation already. And what we're going to have to do is magically, by the awesome power of algebra, we're going to have to make this equation look very much like that equation. Okay, and it's really quite simple. We're going to do what we call completing the square, and hopefully you remember some of it from Algebra 1. If you don't, it's all right. I'm going to walk you through the handful of steps that we have to deal with, okay? So our steps, and I'm going to try to break it down and keep it as simple as I can for you. Our first step, we have to make sure that our variables are going to be on the left side of our equation, and the constant is going to be on the right, okay? Then our second step, and I'll write down all of our steps first so we know where we're going. Our second step is we're going to have to reorder. It's what I like to call reorder, where we have our x squared, and then our x, and then our y squared, and then our y. Okay, so we go alphabetically, and we also go by order of exponents. 3, we're going to need some blanks. Okay, oops, blanks, then an exclamation point. And 4, we have to fill in those blanks. Okay. And then 5, basically our final step is kind of, factoring and simplifying, just making things look nice, neat, pretty, okay, the way mathematicians like to see things. Okay, so all we have to do then is just go through steps 1 through 5, and we'll work through it for problem number 5, and then I'll probably do another video and do another problem off your homework. So the very first thing that I'm going to look at and see is that I see that this 313, okay, is not where it's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be, I've got x squared, I've got y squared, I've got 28x, I've got the 22y. I have all of my variables on the left, but the problem is I still have that constant on the left of my equation as well. And so what I'm going to do is first I'm going to erase this, get that out of there. Okay, I need the space. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 313 from both sides. So when I rewrite this, I will have x squared plus y squared plus 28x plus 22y equals a negative 313. So step 1, done, right? We have all our variables on the left and our constant on the right. Step 2, I need to reorder. So on the left side, I kind of look and I see, okay, well, there's my x squared. That's fine. But then I have this 28x that needs to be moved in front of my y squared. Now, that does not mean I'm adding 28x to both sides or I'm subtracting 28x from both sides. I'm only working on one side of my equation, so I'm literally just moving it. I am going to move the positive sign, the plus sign, with it. But again, it's just a movement. It is not me adding or subtracting things from both sides. Okay, it's just me reordering, reorganizing, and moving things where they need to go. So my second step, x squared, I'm going to move that plus 28x in front of that y squared. I'll now have a plus y squared plus a 22y equals negative 313 still. Okay, so second step, done. Now, third step, I need blanks. And what you need to do is you need to have a blank after every, we'll call it a pair. So I have an x squared and then I have an x. I will need a blank. I have a y squared and then I have a y. I will need a blank. So, and I'm going to write it a little bit smaller because I'm running out of room. X squared plus 28x. There is one pair, so now I need one blank. It's always going to be a plus blank. I'm then going to continue with my equation, y squared plus 22y plus blank. Okay, now that equals negative 313. All right, now I'm running into problems here. All right, I'm going to just move that down there. That'll work. All right, so then what I have to do now is, because I added, I've got 2 purple blanks, one right here, the second one right there. I added 2 blanks to the left side of my equation. Whatever I do on the left, as far as adding or subtracting, I have to do on the right. So I've got 2 blanks there. So step 3, done. Okay. Step 4, I have to fill in those blanks. And here's what's going to happen. I'm going to fill in those blanks, and every single time you're going to have something over 2 and you are going to square it for both of these. Something over 2 and then you are going to square it. And that something comes from what is attached to your x and your y. Okay? Always, every single time. Okay? So this is going to be a positive 28 over 2. 28 divided by 2 is 14. 14 squared is 196. And then I have a positive 22. Every single time, you're going to divide it by 2 and then square it. So 22 divided by 2 is 11. Square it, I get 121. Now, obviously, if I added 196 and 121 on the left side, I have to add 196 and 121 on the right side. Okay? So when I have that, the only thing left I have to do now, I've filled in my blanks, right? I'm going to have to factor and simplify. When I factor and simplify, what I need to do, okay, is I need to take a look, and I'll show you the shortcut on the next problem. But what I'm doing is I'm taking a look, and it's almost like we go back to Algebra 1 and we take a look at what we have in Algebra 1. And if I had just given you this problem in Algebra 1, which I haven't taught in forever, thank goodness, I'm not an Algebra 1 teacher, okay? If I just gave you what I just highlighted, x squared plus 28x plus 196, I would ask you what 2 numbers, when I multiply them I get 196, and when I add them I get 28. So that's kind of what I'm saying when I'm factoring. And what you have to do is you have to factor the 2 different groups. You have 2 different groups. You have your x squared group, you have your y squared group. And so what you're going to end up doing is every single time you're going to factor, and I need 2 numbers. When I multiply them, I get 196, and when I add them, I get 28. Well, those 2 numbers are both 14. So this really is x plus 14 times x plus 14. Plus, in the middle, right, I've got that positive sign in the middle, dividing those 2 up, or splitting those 2 up. And so then I do the same thing for my y squared group. 2 numbers, when I multiply them, I get 121, and when I add them, I get 22. Well, that's 11 for both of them. So y plus 11 times y plus 11, right? And then on the right side, all I have to do then is I can actually take and add all of those together, right? And so when I do a negative 313 plus a 196 plus a 121, I get a 4, okay? So here's what we got. We have to remember that when I'm multiplying 2 things that are exactly the same, like 5 times 5, I can write that as 5 squared. So when I have x plus 14 times x plus 14, I can write that as x plus 14 quantity squared plus y plus 11 quantity squared equals a 4. So my step 5, completely done. I've factored and I've simplified. Sorry, I would say that it's Monday and I'm, stumbling over my words because of that, but no, it's Wednesday. I don't know what my problem is today. So we get x plus 14 quantity squared plus y plus 11 quantity squared equals 4. And so we went from all the way up here at the very top, we went from this crazy looking equation up here, the x squared plus the y squared plus the 28x plus the 22y plus the 313. We have no idea what our center is, no idea what our radius is. We go through the magic and power of algebra. Okay, we complete the square a couple times, and we now have our one equation, which we are hopefully at this point starting to get used to, where we have both our center, which is a negative 14, negative 11, and our radius, which is a 2. Okay, so that's kind of the long way around. But ultimately, it's exactly what you need to do. You need those 5 steps. Now, I'll go and do another one as soon as I show you the whole screen so you can take a look at that. All right, you got your whole screen in case you want to pause again so you can see everything at once. But when I go and do the second one today in the second video, I'm probably going to be a little bit shorter, okay? So just so you have it there.